Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Arbitrary 20. In this video we're going to be making yet another Nova build that takes advantage of the Bugbear surprise attack feature, but this guide is going to be a bit different. We'll go over the core of the build first, which is only about 5 levels, and then after that I'll talk about a few ways to go that I think would be good for levels 6 and beyond. So it's going to be a bit like multiple build guides in one. So let's go ahead and get started. Obviously for the race we're going to be going with Bugbear. Like I said, the main reason being surprise attack. As long as we can go before one of our enemies, this is going to greatly increase our damage on the first round of combat. And for our ability scores, assuming point buy, we're going to have a strength of 8, a dexterity of 15, a constitution of 15, plus 1 from our race for a total of 16, an intelligence of 8, a wisdom of 8, and a charisma of 15, plus 2 from our race for a total of 17. And then if you're rolling for stats, I would prioritize charisma first, constitution second, and dexterity third. For our ideal equipment, we don't need a whole lot on this build, just an arcane focus, and then you'll have to start with leather armor or studded leather armor, but eventually we'll want half plate and a shield once we have the moderately armored feat. And then on to levels 1 and 2, we're going to be starting off with 2 levels of Warlock. For our otherworldly patron, we're going to be going with Genie. First up, we'll get Genie's Wrath. This will give us extra damage equal to our proficiency bonus when we hit once per turn. In this build, we won't really be going for any synergies with the damage types. You can pick whichever you'd like, though I think magical bludgeoning or thunder would be the most reliable. And then we'll also get Bottled Respite. This allows us to spend a number of hours equal to twice our proficiency bonus within our Genie's vessel. This can be quite useful if you need to hide for an extended period of time, or if you need a safe place to take a rest. Instead of Genie, you could consider Hexblade if you want to get armor earlier on. I do think Genie is better in the long run since we end up just getting armor with a feat, but if your campaign ends before level 10, then Hexblade is likely the better choice since you probably won't get much time with that moderately armored feat. For spells, the main one we want to pick up is unsurprisingly Eldritch Blast. This is going to be our main damage dealer, and like I talked about earlier, as long as we go before our enemy in initiative, we'll have an extra 2d6 damage per hit with our Eldritch Blast. In the future, we'll get a lot more attacks and possibly advantage on those attacks, so this will start to add up really fast. And then for our invocations, I would definitely pick up Agonizing Blast, letting us add our charisma modifier to the damage of each of our Eldritch Blasts. And then for the second one, I would go with either Devil's Sight or Repelling Blast. Repelling Blast would be good for controlling enemies and keeping them away from us. Devil's Sight lets us see in darkness even if it's magical darkness. This can be used in combination with things like the darkness spell to get advantage, though this combo can be quite disruptive to the other characters at the table. So if you go with something like darkness plus Devil's Sight, just communicate with your party and be willing to change your strategy on the fly. And then moving on to levels 3 through 5, we're going to be taking 3 levels of sorcerer here. For spells, first we're going to pick up Shield and Absorb Elements. These are 2 of the strongest defensive spells in the game. Shield for raising our AC so we're harder to hit for the round, and Absorb Elements will let us become resistant to an elemental damage type when we take that same damage type. And then once we get to second level spells, I would go with Scorching Ray. Like Eldritch Blast, this is another spell that gives us a lot of attacks that will combine well with our surprise attack feature from Bugbear. The main thing this has over Eldritch Blast is that we can upcast it to get 1 additional ray per spell level. And then for our last spell pick here at level 3, I would go with either Darkness or Silvery Barbs. Darkness if you want to go for the Darkness plus Devil's Sight combo that we just talked about. If you don't want to go for that, I'd recommend taking Silvery Barbs to complete that trifecta of defensive reaction spells with Shield and Absorb Elements. Then we'll pick up Font of Magic, getting us sorcery points and meta magic. The main meta magic option we'll be using with this build is Quicken Spell. We can use it in combination with Eldritch Blast or Scorching Ray to get at least twice as many attacks on our first turn. This in combination with a high level Scorching Ray is how we're going to get our biggest Nova rounds, but I would actually lean more towards using it with Eldritch Blast. Since it's a cantrip, you'll be spending a lot less resources and you'll potentially be able to go Nova in every combat, which is something most Nova builds aren't able to do. Seeking Spell is another meta magic option to consider since it can increase our Nova damage by making Eldritch Blast or Scorching Ray hit more often, but I think it's just a bit too expensive, especially since one of this build's strengths is doing your Nova damage for very cheap. If your GM lets you use the revised version that costs only 1 sorcery point, or you're watching this in the future and that's the version you're using, then I think it would be a decent option, but as it is currently in 5e, it is way too expensive. And then onto our Sorcerer's Origin. Pretty much any subclass would work here. Personally, I would go with Clockwork Soul. I think it has the best expanded spell list, getting access to some pretty good spells from the wizard list the sorcerer usually doesn't get access to. And that's pretty much the core of the build there. In a minute we'll talk about what I think are the best ways you could go for level 6 and beyond, but regardless of which of those ways you go, some of the feats you'll want to pick up are either Resilient Con or Warcaster, whichever one you prefer to boost your concentration checks. I usually prefer Resilient Con if I have an odd numbered constitution score and I'm able to increase my hit points as well. Otherwise, I would probably go with Warcaster. Then I would pick up Moderately Armored to get medium armor and shields and shore up your defenses. And lastly, Alert is another great option to boost your initiative and make sure you're getting surprise attack every combat. And then after that, you'll pretty much just want to boost your charisma and hopefully get it to 20. And now we'll go over all of the various ways you could go from levels 6 to 20. First, the simplest way and probably the way I would go in a long-term campaign is just to continue on with Sorcerer all the way to level 20. So you'd end up as a Warlock 2, Sorcerer 18. Every version of this build will take some more Sorcerer levels, but this way you'll eventually get to 9th level spells and you'll get your Sorcerer subclass capstone ability. Going this way is probably the weakest version of the build in terms of Nova damage, but I think it's the most well-rounded and versatile overall since you're getting the full spellcasting progression. Another way you could consider going is taking 2 levels of Fighter to get Action Surge. This would let you cast 3 spells in a turn, all of which would make attacks, and this would greatly increase your Nova potential. You could quicken a Scorching Ray with your bonus action and cast Eldritch Blast with both of your actions, or you could use something like Hexblade's Curse or Spirit Shroud as your bonus action and then either cast Scorching Ray twice or Eldritch Blast twice as your action. Just remember, if you cast a leveled spell like Spirit Shroud or Scorching Ray as your bonus action, you'll have to use Eldritch Blast as your actions since you're locked into cantrips. If Nova damage is what you want to prioritize, I would definitely take these 2 levels of Fighter. The next thing you could consider is 3 levels of Assassin Rogue. The main reason you would want to do this is for the Assassinate feature. This will give us advantage on all of our attacks if we go before our enemy, so it has the same condition as surprise attack. Also, if we surprise our enemy, every hit is guaranteed to be a critical hit. If you go this way, you'll definitely want to take stealth proficiency and encourage your party to stealth so that happens as much as possible. But even if you just get that advantage, this will still boost your Nova damage a lot. 3 levels is a big investment. You'll be sacrificing a lot of spellcasting potential, but if your main focus with this build is Nova damage, it is probably worth it. And then the last option I wanted to mention is 7 levels of Oath of the Watcher's Paladin. This is almost a different build if you're taking 7 levels of another class, but if you really want to make sure you'll win initiative every time, this is a great option thanks to the Aura of the Sentinel feature. This boosts your initiative and the initiative of everyone within 10 feet of you by your proficiency bonus. With this and Aura of Protection, the rest of your party will definitely be thanking you if you go this way. But that's all I have for the build. Let me know what you guys thought of this new style of build guide in the comments. Should I keep doing these? Should I do the old ones? Or should I do both? If you'd like to watch my last build guide, I did a bit of a challenge where I tried to build an effective damage character without using any equipment. You can check that out right here. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one.